Okay, don't be frightened. This is not a real starfish. It's my little sawdust starfish, and we're going to make him this morning as our little project. Made up of several pieces. The bottom piece is a 1/2-inch piece of plywood. There are two other layers which are made from 1/4-inch birch plywood, and the whole thing has been cut out on the scroll saw, of course, glued together, and then given a bath of sawdust to make it look a little bit realistic. Actually, it looks more like a cookie here if you look at it. Almost good enough to eat. You could paint it other colors, of course, and dress it up a little bit. Even after you've frosted it with sawdust, you might want to paint it white, make it look like a real starfish out of the ocean. But this is going to be our little project for this morning. So what we're going to need, first of all, and I'm going to use something different on this one, the next one we're going to make. This is going to be made from a piece of MDF. It's 1/2-inch MDF. That'll substitute for the 1/2-inch of plywood that I used on the bottom of that one. We're going to take our pattern, the big pattern, which is going to be the base for our starfish. Now you can download this pattern for free, by the way, on my website. If you look down below, you'll find a little link down there. You click on it and that'll take you there, and you can download this to your computer and start to work on it yourself after we've done the little project here. Okay, what I have to do now is make a little entry hole here, take it over to the scroll saw, and we'll cut this out first. Okay, we're over at the scroll saw now, and we're going to cut out our base for our starfish. And I'm going to use a number 3 reverse tooth blade to do this. 3 or 5 would be fine. Happen to have a 3 on hand, so I'm going to use that one. This is going to be a really easy cut. It's good for beginners to try cutting this out. Not too difficult at all. I mean, it's just a perimeter cut and should go fairly easy. Hopefully I won't break a blade along the way. We'll see what happens. Put our blade in here, snug it up. Okay. Now I'll try to keep my hands out of the way. We'll see what happens. Okay, completed cutting the starfish base out. What we'll do is we'll take this off of here now. And we can toss that out. We have our little starfish hole ready to go. I've taken the paper pattern off of the MDF, and what I'd like to do now is run along the edges of one side to round over the edges on this starfish. Make it a little smoother to handle, plus it'll make it look a little better when the final project is done. So we're going to do this on the router with a 1/4-inch bit and round over bit. Okay, I finished rounding over the edges on this starfish. As you can see, it looks a lot better now, and it's a lot smoother. I'm going to make it a little more smooth too, of course, by going over to the sander eventually and sanding that down some more. Okay, the next two parts I'm going to need are these little guys right here. And since this is going to be coated pretty well with sawdust, it's not going to really matter what kind of wood you use. You could use a really rough type of wood, which would be fine. I had this piece of 1/4-inch plywood around. It was sort of like a birch type of plywood, and I think I'm going to use that to cut out these two pieces. So what I'll do is I'll coat this up with the green painter's tape and then glue this down, and we'll go over and cut these out on the scroll saw also. I just got these two little guys on the plywood here to cut out, and then we'll be ready to join this thing together. Using number 3 reverse tooth blade again. Should be fairly easy to do with this 1/4-inch plywood. Snug this up, and we should be off and running. Okay, got these two little starfish cut out, which are really going to be the top layers on the base. What we'll be doing is gluing them together eventually. But I don't know if you noticed what I was doing when I was cutting this, is that I didn't keep to the line. I sort of zigzagged in and out along the way. If you've ever seen a real starfish, of course, it's not a very perfectly proportioned creature. So we want to try to emulate that in some ways. So I did that by sort of scooting in and out as I was doing the cutting. Just improvised, of course, nothing actually put on lines. Okay, I'm over at my sanding mop here, attached to my sand flea. What I'm going to do now is take the pieces that I cut out, go along the edges to really smooth them out. Same with the little pieces as well. Okay, looks pretty good. It's nice and rounded on the edges. These I haven't put on the router. You could run them on the router if you want, but I think just a nice pass over the wheel here should be okay. Alright, I'm using 150 grit, by the way, in terms of the sanding mop. You could do this with sandpaper or a Dremel too to round over those edges if you like. Alright, we got all our pieces cut out. Now what we want to do is glue our starfish together. I want to try to find the best arrangement here. That looks good there. So we're going to take a little bit of wood glue, put it on the back of the bigger of the two small ones. Just rub your finger across it here to get it spread out nicely. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then just put it down wherever you'd like. I want to make sure we got the right ones in place here so that they look good. Okay, there's one down. And then we take another one, smaller one, put a little bit of glue on it. Run it along the edges here. And we take this baby and put it right down on top of that one. Making sure it's lined up nicely. Okay. And we've got our gluing done. Now what you want to do now is get some of these spring clamps, if you haven't got any. You can use other clamps too, but I find these to be the easiest way to go. And just clamp down these arms hold the Starfish together while it's drying. And 4 of them ought to do the trick. Okay, we'll just let that dry now, and we'll come back later and give it its sawdust bath. Okay, we're going to need some sawdust now, and if you run a shop, you know you got plenty of that around. There's a lot to use. So what I'm going to do is, I have a box here that I collect my sawdust underneath the table saw, and I'm going to take my strainer here and fill it up, and just gently over here tap it and sift out some sawdust. This will be sort of refined sawdust that we're going to use. It'll look a lot better than just these scraggly edges, but you could use the scraggly edges too, though. It depends on what you want to do. Get some more of this, put it in here. Certainly got plenty of sawdust to work with. I've already put some in here ahead of time too, so we don't have to take a lot of time doing this. But there you go. We got our sawdust bath all ready to go now. Okay, we got our finished and dried Starfish here. What we're going to do now is take some of this 3M adhesive, and I'm going to spray the whole thing all over the top, make it good and sticky before we give it the bath in the sawdust. Get it good and messy here. Okay, I just let it harden up a little bit. You want to put on some of these rubber gloves before you handle this. Otherwise you're going to be peeling that stuff off of you all day long. I'm going to take this over to the box now, and let's begin our bath. Okay, here we are in our sawdust bath. Take our sticky little wicket, just sort of rub it around inside there. You don't need to do the bottom necessarily, although you could. I'm going to get this all around the outer edges too, as much as you can. Although that doesn't necessarily have to be covered perfectly either. Top is the important thing. Okay, then just rub it down a bit. Some more on, it comes off. Got a little bit of Paduke sawdust there, gives it a little red tinge, which isn't too bad. Put this all along the top here and really good soaking. Tap it out, and once you've done that, you've got your little sawdust covered starfish. Probably call them a sawdust fish, I suppose. Okay, now what I'm going to do too, and what I did with the other one, give it some color, I suppose, is to spray it with a sealer. And that helps to hold the sawdust down a lot better too. A couple coats of that will probably do it. Well, that's our little starfish project. You can put a hanger on the back of this and hang it on the wall, I suppose, or you could just lay it out on a table. If you got a little beach cottage or something like that, you like to have a starfish around, conversation piece, this will probably do it. Hope you enjoyed watching this video, and you'll make this, and if you do, let me know how it goes. You can, remember, click on the pattern link down below, and you can download this pattern for your use. Don't forget to click on the like button also if you did like this video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Thank you very much for watching.